Hello everybody, Floppy Hat Photos back here again for a random rant. It's not really so much a rant today, as I didn't know what else to call this, so I'm calling it a rant. But basically this is just an observation more of how people do things sometimes more elaborate than it needs to be, and they get to thinking like with an engineer brain or with a lawyer brain or with like a designer brain, and they start like overbuilding stuff, over complicating things, and so on and so forth. And one of the interesting things I had today, I stopped by and dropped off a new orchid to my bride, and she wanted to show me they were taking a hot dog roller machine with them to the next show so they can have hot dogs, I guess, to give to people. So instead of having something on a grill and trying to keep up with it, they bought a fancy little hot dog roller like you'd have at a 7-Eleven or Wawa or whatever kind of thing. So they had built a crate to put it in so they can ship it, so it got to go from show to show to show and back in between and protect itself. So in the process of building this, they built this giant, elaborate, beautiful crate with beautiful stainless steel hinges. Probably stainless steel hinges we have around because they're a boat company, so it makes sense to have those there. And probably by the cost, it would cost less to just use those when we could run on at Home Depot to get some zinc or galvanized or whatever, junky hinges. So not a problem there. But she looked in there, she opened the lid up, showed me, and this thing's say 30 inches by 24 by, I don't know, maybe 12 inches tall. Not very big, but the box is like another foot longer at least. And I was like, what the hell, why is it so big? And she goes, they had to leave the room so they could reach in and pick it up and pull it out, because they'd be able to have the hands in. She's like, it's not light, but it's not like hundreds of pounds either, but they'd be able to get their hands in there good on both sides, which makes sense. And now they got this box that's much larger, which if they pay to ship it, it's going to be so much more interesting. Also more likely for it to be able to shift and damage itself inside the crate. Or if they're packing it themselves, that's an extra 3 cubic foot or whatever, by the time you figure the full dimension of the box, to be able to find space in the van or the trailers and whatever to haul us around. She had noticed after it was already finished, because nobody bothered to ask, they just said he built this crate, and they built this really cool, really fancy little crate, and it's all good. She walked around and said, why not just put a rope underneath it? Could have tied the rope into a small circle and just had it laid underneath the thing, so you just reach in, grab the handle with the rope, and you could have even just hooked them together with some silk or whatever on top, and then just lift it straight up, and you wouldn't have to build the box an extra 6 inches on each dimension to get your hands in there to it. And they're like, well, yeah, but you weren't there when we built it. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't ask either. So the thought of it is before you start building something, every once in a while, ask other people who aren't engineers and lawyers and scientists and all that kind of stuff. Ask other people who might have looked at something slightly differently. And my immediate thought was, why not just eliminate the hinges and all that, flip this whole entire box upside down, get the hot dog stand on the base, and then the top part can all be just screwed on. You could put in basically 4 catch nuts. You can have the little T-nuts, whatever you want to call them, the ones that just drive into the wood. Put 4 bolts in the corners. Technically, you can probably get away with 2, but put 4 bolts, 1 bolt in every corner, and boom, guess what? Now you have a crate that's bolted to the bottom frame. The hot dog roller stays in the bottom. When you get where you're going, no hinges, no nothing, you unbolt the 4 3/8 inch or 1/4 inch or whatever the hell bolts are, because they don't have to be very strong, so just holding the box up. And you literally unbolt these 4 little bolts and lift the crate up above it, and now your hot dog heat cooker is setting on a platform right out in the wide open. So anybody in their right mind can just reach out, grab it, and or depending on how they build that bottom frame, depending on where they're going, they could even mounted a setup on it where now the crate itself could become part of the stand. They could have it where it would, fold out, make it a little taller, or even have the base built into it. But you just, at that point, I need a couple screws to hold it down tight to that bottom plate. Save yourself 2 sets of hinges and a lock, like a latching mechanism for the hinge to open up. Would have been way easier, way simpler, and it probably would have been stronger too, because now you don't have to worry about the hinges and the lid flopping around and worry about that problem. So immediately we had 2 separate solutions that both work. Hers requires some extra rope, less wood. Mine requires less wood and no rope. So both her design still requires hinges. My design didn't require hinges at all, or a latch, which both hers would desire a latch also. But it's so simple how little things like that, when you get on a path and you start to do something, you're like, this is where we're at, this is what we're gonna do. And it becomes a thing. And a lot of people get stuck in that thought. They see something, They think, hey, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I want to do. And they have a hard time resetting and starting over from scratch. And often I say, you should ask people, what do you think of this? What's your opinion? Even if they have no expertise, no idea, no knowledge of it, it's one of those things. And I think about that often when I'm getting ready to make a business decision, think about do I buy this house? Do I sell that stock? Do I try and close this business and open a different one? Do I try and buy that business? Anything I talk to, could be anything, all the way down to how do we deal with my father-in-law and his illnesses and his lack of mental ability to take care of himself and that kind of thing. I ask everybody. I don't care if I'm at the grocery store and I'm asking somebody else, we're just making small talk. Hey, what would you do in this situation? Because they might have some insight I don't know about. And so many people are so desperate not to let anybody know they don't know everything, they refuse to ask. And one of the things I remember getting told a lot as a youngster and even as an adult, hey, whatever you do, I tell my ideas to somebody close to me, and their answer inevitably, don't tell them, don't ask them. They'd name off actual particular people who I don't have personal first-hand experience with this. I'm like, why? Well, they don't even know what you're doing. I'm like, what do I care? I'm not robbing a bank here. I'm looking at, maybe I don't want to do it that way, and if they can give me insight. And 3 different times, the one person they particularly told me not to talk to gave me advice I had never thought of that legitimately changed the direction of where I was going with the plan. So this is one of the situations in life where here's a guy building a crate for the hot dog cart or whatever you're doing. Don't feel bad. Ask people before you start. Go, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we're thinking. What do you think? Take you 5 minutes, walk around the office, and say, hey, go from there. I'm still in the process of trying to build a garage. I have asked half a dozen people who I know who have garages and said, if you go back and do yours over again, what would you change in this? What do you wish you would have added? What do you wish you hadn't spent the money on? Something you have that you've never used, could be whatever. And I ask people that all the time, every time. And then I go home and I write it down and give me answers. I go home and make notes because I'm not gonna remember it 3 months or 6 months or 2 years from now when I get around to that, but I wanna know it's there. So don't be afraid to ask people for their advice and their input on how to possibly do something that seems simple, seems really easy. You're like, oh yeah, let's build a crate, put some hinges on it, some blah, blah, make it 6 inches bigger in each side so I can get my hands underneath it, fine. But you could have saved yourself time, could have saved yourself some money, and saved yourself a headache by asking somebody, and they could have told you a better way to do it. So that's, I guess, my more of a observation is get out there and ask for other people's opinions, ask for other people's help, and it might come up with something you never thought of. So anyway, that's all I got for now, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Have yourself a safe, wonderful day. Thanks for watching.